Hi, you're listening to Oh Crap with Jamie. This is a podcast for parents working hard to break the cycles while dropping the F-bomb a lot. I'm your host, Jamie Glowacki, and I am the author of Oh Crap Potty Training and Oh Crap I Have a Toddler. And I am so happy you're here. Hey there, welcome. This is a potty training episode. It may be a bite-sized nugget. It might be longer. I don't know. I have a lot to talk about, so it may not be a bite-sized nugget, but if you are here for the parenting and not the potty training, feel free to skip this episode or send it to somebody who might need it. Today, I want to go over poop withholding, which is the majority of my work right now, is dealing with chronic poop withholders. So let's go over a few things, and I want to be super clear about poop withholding. Now, first and foremost, poop withholding is a muscular reaction to anxiety. And throughout my 20 years of being a potty training educator, it has been ramping up, and now it is the majority of the work I do and the majority of the work that the OCRAP consultants do. What's noticeable is that this uptick in poop withholding really ramped up in 2020, in March of 2020 to be specific, with the pandemic and lockdowns, etc. Also with a political climate that is very volatile and very tribal in nature and very concerning no matter what side you're on. So we have created a very anxious world for our children. And I maintain that any kid born after 2020 is born with pretty much a jacked up nervous system. I talk a lot about this on the parenting side of this podcast and how to mitigate things like seeing too much news, social media. All of those things have taken an uptick, and they're making us parents more anxious. So your child's nervous system has everything to do with their muscular reaction to anxiety. We have also become very entrenched in what I'm calling the parenting hustle. And again, I talk a lot about this on the parenting side of this podcast, which is why I combine them, because so much of potty training has to do with parenting. I used to have I still have a podcast called Oh Crap Potty Training. I just stopped putting podcasts there. There's 95 episodes if you want to check that out. I combined it with my parenting podcast because I kept referring to both. Okay, we have this parenting hustle where kids at very young ages are being dragged from activity to activity. I say dragged because when the pandemic hit and the lockdowns hit, these kids all reported having the time of their lives. They really want you in the early years, and they really want a slow existence in which they can explore and have freedom. So we also are creating a society. I've done a lot when we talk about parental burnout on the parenting side of this podcast. We have done a lot to create a life that doesn't allow for children's growth. Okay. And we have made financial decisions that keep parents strung out and anxious, and these all contribute, okay? These all contribute to your child having a jacked up nervous system. Children who are in daycare from 8 in the morning till 6 p.m., I understand you have to work. I'm not judging that, but that child needs absolute downtime when they get home. They absolutely need downtime, not more activities. They need weekends at home with you. They need playground. They need outside. They need helping with chores. And what I see regularly in my poop withholding clients is overscheduled. This also contributes to nervous system dysregulation, in addition to just being toddlers, sort of living in dysregulation. Okay. Now, poop withholding and pee withholding can happen at very young ages. A lot of times it's tied to constipation, and there's a chicken and the egg situation. Did the constipation cause the withholding, or is the withholding causing the constipation? Either one can be true. So very often, though, we'll notice that one thing sort of led the other. This can happen while a child's still in a diaper. This can happen after years of potty training. This can happen if you delay potty training. And potty training can be a catalyst for this, because potty training is a big milestone. It's a big change. And I know this may be shocking to you, but especially us moms, we're pretty intense, okay? And so if you start potty training and you are gung-ho to get it done right, and you are very inauthentic because you're going to potty train, right? And I do see this. I see moms especially. I don't know why. We're just more susceptible, and I'm in that group too, so I'm not judging you. We become inauthentic, and this puts up red flags for the child, and they get anxious. Now, some kids, like some adults, hold their anxiety in their shoulders, maybe in their lower back, and some kids hold it in their butt. Okay. And so we have to look at that as well. Now, potty training isn't always a catalyst. Like I said, it is wild right now. I am recording this September 1st, and kindergarten teachers all over the country are freaking the hell out because kids are coming to kindergarten. And in the US, that is age 5 or 6. I know it's different in other countries, what you call kindergarten. They are coming to kindergarten at 5 or 6 years old, starting their K through 12 educational career in diapers. Kindergarten teachers do not change diapers. Okay. So I know parents are delaying potty training until 5 or 6 years old. And oftentimes it's because they attempted potty training and the child withheld and they thought it better to re-diaper. So I can tell you right now that it doesn't matter what age your child is. It doesn't matter whether potty training was the catalyst or not. Poop withholding happens. Now let's talk about some things that are versions of poop withholding. And I've been lately calling them just pooping issues because parents cannot wrap their head around the fact that your child can be withholding, but still regularly pooping. So there is the obvious thing, which is a child who's not pooping at all. Okay. And that is a child who can hold in their poop. And it looks like this is on purpose. It looks like they're doing it. You can see strain on their face. You'll see their butt cheeks clench. This is not your child doing it on purpose. This is their anus acting of its own accord and doing its own thing and betraying the child's body. Okay. And that is why when you see your child have the urge to poop, you will probably see escalating behavior. They're freaking the hell out because the anus wants to open and the anus wants to stay shut. And that is a conflicting feeling. This is not your child doing this on purpose. And the reason I'm saying that slowly and firmly is because everyone comes to me and tells me they can tell this kid's doing it on purpose. No, they're not. Okay. Now, some other signs of poop withholding are leaking or smearing. So if you feel like your child's leaking or smearing, if they are requesting a diaper to poop in, they are well potty trained for pee. Comes time to poop, they freak out to get a diaper. That is withholding. That needs to be addressed ASAP. Okay. If they are consistently pooping in their pants, not pooping on the potty. If they are pooping anywhere but the potty, be that outside, be that in the corner of a closet, be that in their car seat. I hear all kinds of places kids poop except the potty. That is a version of withholding. There is something about the potty or the toilet that is making the anus a little nervous and won't open appropriately. And of course, there is if you feel like it's constipation, but the constipation causes withholding, still withholding. Okay. And then there's the obvious not pooping at all. And I do have kids who can hold their poop for up to several weeks. The longest I've seen a kid not poop is 6 weeks. So it can be severe. When you start potty training and you might see a couple of days of no poop, that's not necessarily withholding. I define withholding, both for pee withholding and for poop withholding, as the level of distress that the child is in when they have to go. So you'll see the urge hit, and then the child will avoid the potty at all costs. And it could look like frantic behavior. It could look like crazy. They could start hitting, biting. I've had kids run out in traffic. I had a kid jump through a plate glass window when the urge hits. So they go into fight, flight, or freeze. They might get lethargic and stop playing. These are things to look for. It's very common for the child to not poop a couple of days when you first start potty training, usually because there's a lot of focus on their butt and the focus on the potty, and it's just a little performance anxiety, in which case I would just attempt a little bit of Miralax or a little bit of Senna just to ease things along. See if you can nip it in the bud right away, okay? If you determine that you have withholding, I have my pee withholding course and my poop withholding course. So those are specific protocols to get you through. Pee is a much easier, quicker fix. And pee is very obvious because like you have more opportunities or your child has more opportunities to pee. Okay. So people a lot of times come to me for pee withholding, but in all honesty, the pee withholding is often linked to poop withholding, but parents don't consider poop withholding because the child's pooping in their diaper at night or nap time, or the child's just simply not pooping, and so they don't recognize it as a poop withholding problem. The pelvic floor is like an elastic band, so if your child is poop withholding, it is absolutely going to make them pee withhold. Not all the time, but it can be the reason, and vice versa. Okay. So sometimes it's, you need to address both, and you should address them both at the same time. Okay. So when your child is pee or poop withholding, if you determine that that's what it is, get my course. And I am here to talk shit about other specialists, quote unquote specialists. I was going to say I'm not here to talk shit about them, but I am. So a lot of times when parents come to me, they have seen all manner of specialists. They have seen behavioral therapists first and foremost. Okay, let's run down the hierarchy. First, they go to their pediatrician. Your pediatrician does not understand withholding. I'm going to say it flat out. I love pediatricians. I'm not denigrating them. I am not saying that I'm better or know more than pediatricians. They are well skilled in Western medicine, at least here in the US. They are wonderful for looking out for your kid. They do not understand withholding. I have not met one pediatrician in all the ones that I've worked with, that I've met with, that parents have reported about, that understand withholding. They are going to recommend Miralax up to very high doses. Miralax is not the right tool for withholding, okay? And they will gaslight you. They are not here to understand, to sift through your pooping drama. They will ask you, hey, how's potty training going? You'll be like, oh my God. Or you'll call them and say, oh my God, my kid is withholding and they're this and that. And I'm so worried. And they'll be like, give them Miralax or re-diaper them. Don't worry about it. They'll do it when they're ready because they don't have time. Again, particularly here in the US with our stupid insurance system that's a total scam, they don't have time. They want to know if it's on your radar, and they want to know if you think about it, right? You go into their office and give them all this drama, and then next time they see you, your kid's potty trained. They don't see all the work that went into it. They don't see what happened. So their bottom line is, don't worry about it, because they see people on a yearly basis, right? So we can't trust pediatricians in this area. They just don't know. And then I'll have parents say, okay, well, I need a behavioral specialist because again, they're convinced that their kid is doing this on purpose. So they'll go to a behavioral specialist who, this makes me the angriest because this is usually out of pocket. It's usually quite expensive. And these motherfuckers, they don't know anything about poop. They don't know anything about poop. I've had parents pay $600 out of pocket who have a behavioral therapist who suggests a freaking sticker chart. Like you couldn't have Googled that. Like 80,000 people online didn't tell you that. Like you didn't try that, right? By the time most parents come to me, they have offered their kid a single trip to Disney to get a singular poop in the potty. Okay. If your child could, they would. I'm sure you have offered every reward. Now, these behavioral therapists work on behavior modification, which often relies on a rewards and consequence situation. Again, by the time you come to me, I'm sure you've lost your shit. I'm sure you have yelled, screamed, given consequences, cried, fighting with your spouse on the edge of divorce, and promised a puppy, a dollhouse, a kitchen, a new bike, and a trip to Disney. Those are things that legit people have offered their child for a poop in the potty. So it's not a behavioral thing. So behavioral fixes aren't going to do it. So please, please, please do not waste money on a behavioral therapist. I have had parents who take their 2.5 or 3-year-old to a psychologist. Love psychologists. I love therapy. Love cognitive behavioral therapy. I love DBT, CBT. I love EMDR. These are not appropriate for toddlers. Cognitive behavioral therapy assumes your child has a prefrontal cortex and some cognition. That is not a tool for a muscular reaction to anxiety. Pediatric gastroenterologist, again, very skilled people. And I don't know why pediatric gastroenterologists do not specialize in encopresis or in poop withholding, but they don't. Okay. And encopresis is the fancy word for poop withholding. And a child really can't get an encopresis diagnosis until they're like 4 or 5. It has to be prolonged. So if you're dealing with poop withholding, fairly new into potty training, or when your child's like 2 or 3, it would probably be hard to get a diagnosis, but it's just the fancy word for prolonged chronic withholding. And I have worked with probably 4 pediatric gastroenterologists who understand withholding. Most of them will give your child high doses of Miralax, which will blow out the very delicate tissues that are withholding and clenching, thus creating anal fissures. I have worked with kids who have blown out anal fissures. Okay. Then we have to work on healing their anus before we can even begin any sort of protocols. So those are the litany of specialists that people go to. They are tapped out. They are hopeless. They've been at this for a year or 2, and then they come to me, and my Pooping Solutions course heals them. Okay. It resolves the withholding. So I just wanted to point this out because more and more people, as I said, it's becoming very common now to have poop withholding, and more people are experiencing it with their kids. And this is so much easier if you nip it in the bud right away. If you catch it that first week of potty training, or when you see it, if you see it, in your child in a diaper, I would absolutely address it head on as soon as possible, because the faster you catch it, the faster you fix it. And some of these things go on and on and on and on. The requesting a diaper to poop in is crazy. I see kids who are 9 and 10 years old who are still doing this. Like, this doesn't get better. And I think that's what happens as parents, is like hope springs eternal. And we're like, okay, I'll just give them a little more time. Okay. So I really encourage you to get my pee and poop withholding courses if you need it. I also now offer mini consults on a third-party app. If you just go to my website, you can text me questions. And also I am opening spots for my month-long consulting. I encourage you to get help, because we may need to, work physically through the protocol, but also on your lifestyle and how to keep your child's nervous system calmer, maybe keep your nervous system calmer, right? Because this is a global problem, meaning, not just global, like the globe, the planet, but that all areas kind of play into it. So it's not just your child doing this. And I really encourage you to get my help. I know it sounds kind of funny. No, and it's not just like buy my course. It really is. It's because I know I can help people, and I just feel so bad that for parents who have been through the ringer with these other specialists, and it just breaks my heart. And so many people come to me and they're like, oh my God, I just watching your videos. I felt so seen. I felt so heard. My doctor's just blowing me off, and it pisses me off, but that's what we've got, guys. So, all right. I hope that was helpful. As always, I appreciate you guys. Rock on and have a beautiful day.